Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are diving straight into, well, really one of the most compelling economic competitions happening anywhere right now, certainly in the Global South.
Absolutely. It's fascinating.
It's this contest of, ambition, massive scale, and deeply strategic vision. And it's not between countries. It's actually between three major subnational economies within India.
That's right. We're talking about Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Tamil Nadu. Each one of these state-level powerhouses is racing towards this really staggering target.
Huge number.
Becoming the first state in India to hit a $1 trillion gross state domestic product, GSDP.
$1 trillion. Just pause on that for a second.
Yeah, I mean, to put that number in perspective for you, a $1 trillion subnational economy. That would instantly put any one of these states right up there with the global elite.
But California, you mentioned.
Exactly. We're talking California, maybe Guangdong in China, or even, entire developed nations. It's a massive league to be playing in.
So our mission today, and we've got these incredibly detailed strategic roadmaps they've all released.
Yeah.
Plans for 2029, 2030, some looking way out to 2047.
Yeah, the long view.
Is to give you the strategic shortcut. We want to unpack the three fundamentally unique economic models they're deploying. And these aren't just minor tweaks, are they?
Not at all. They represent really distinct philosophies. You've got everything from, high-tech financial speed strategies on one hand to these deep green manufacturing hubs on the other. Very different approaches.
Okay, so we'll analyze the core engines of growth each state is trying to activate, right?
Yeah.
And the massive infrastructure investments they're banking on to support these goals.
And ultimately try to figure out which strategy seems, maybe most likely to win this trillion-dollar sprint. Though maybe win isn't quite the right word. It's more complex than that.
Yeah, maybe reach the target first.
Right. And what's really compelling here, you mentioned the national context earlier, is that this race isn't just about internal prestige or bragging rights. No. Every single one of these state visions is explicitly engineered, designed to align with India's overarching national goal. That big one, Viksit Bharat at 2047.
Developed India by 2047. So these states aren't just along for the ride in India's growth story.
Far from it. They are positioned as the absolutely critical engines required if the nation as a whole is going to hit its own multi-trillion-dollar ambition, like the $5 trillion target often mentioned.
Okay, so let's unpack how this massive internal competition is really set to redefine India's economic landscape, probably for the next decade or more. Where do we start?
Right, so to really understand the race, I think we need to know the starting line. Let's just quickly establish the current economic scale, roughly, of these three major contenders as we see it around 2025.
Okay, makes sense. And leading the pack both historically and right now, that's Maharashtra, isn't it? They're kind of the established incumbent, the heavyweight.
Definitely. Maharashtra is already the largest subnational economy in India. They're sitting pretty comfortably at around $520 billion GSDP, give or take.
Already over $500 billion.
Yeah, they were actually the first Indian state to cross that $500 billion mark. And they contribute a significant chunk to India's overall GDP, close to 15%.
15%, that's substantial.
It is. So, they're already halfway to the goal, which naturally makes them the default frontrunner in many ways.
Okay, so if Maharashtra is the established leader who's providing the, let's say, fiercest competition, who's snapping at their heels?
Well, Gujarat comes in really strong. Their GSDP is currently around $340 billion, contributing maybe 8.3 to 8.5% of India's total GDP.
Okay, still a significant gap behind Maharashtra, though.
There is a gap in total size, yes. But Gujarat's data points towards a different kind of strength, which is interesting. While its GSDP is smaller overall, it boasts a really high per capita income. Currently around $3,728. Now, that figure is more than 50% above the national average for India.
50% higher. Okay, so that signals something different.
It signals perhaps efficiency, maybe more established wealth creation mechanisms. It's often linked back to its really robust and long-standing industrial base.
Okay, so that distinction is key. Maharashtra might have the sheer economic scale, the agglomeration effect perhaps, whereas Gujarat highlights this higher per capita wealth. Is that fair?
I think that's a fair initial distinction, yeah. And then close behind Gujarat, you have Tamil Nadu. Their GSDP is around $325 billion, so very close to Gujarat's number.
Right, almost neck and neck there.
Pretty much. And Tamil Nadu contributes just over 9% of the national GDP. Their strength, or resilience maybe, seems rooted in this highly diversified and pretty stable manufacturing anchor.
The Detroit of India label they often get.
That's part of it, yeah. But it's broader now. And we'll definitely get into their unique model later because it blends that industrial strength with really robust social equity measures. It's quite a different philosophy.
Okay, got the starting positions. Now let's talk urgency, because the race isn't just about who has the biggest economy now. It's about the timeline challenge. You mentioned these states have set really aggressive and differing deadlines.
This is where the competitive strategy, the real philosophy, shines through, I think. Maharashtra, despite having that current lead, has set the most accelerated and, well, arguably the most aggressive target date. 2029.
2029, that's just around the corner, economically speaking.
It really is. And their own planning documents, interestingly, show that based on just, business as usual growth trends, they probably wouldn't hit $1 trillion until maybe 2032.
Okay.
So by aiming for 2029, they're demanding a full 3-year acceleration. That's not trivial. That requires a substantial and immediate shift in economic focus and execution.
A real speed strategy, as we've kind of labeled it for our discussion.
Exactly. And that speed is what really distinguishes their plan. Meanwhile, you have both Tamil Nadu and Gujarat. They're targeting 2030 and 2030-31 respectively. So still very ambitious, but a slightly longer runway than Maharashtra's moonshot.
Right. But to catch up, especially for Gujarat, starting further behind Maharashtra.
That's the challenge. For Gujarat to hit $1 trillion by, say, 2030, they need a really demanding compound annual growth rate, or CAGR. We're talking 14-15% growth year on year from 2025 to 2030.
14 to 15%. Every year.
Every single year. That's sustained near double-digit growth. It's a massive demand on their resource allocation, their policy execution, their administrative machinery. It's a huge lift.
So, okay, let's bring it back to the listener. For you listening, whether you're maybe in business development thinking about where to invest, or maybe in economic policy, or perhaps you're just curious about where the next big centers of opportunity are going to pop up, why does this competition matter? What's the relevance of this intense internal state rivalry?
Well, the short answer is really about capital and opportunity concentration. This high-stakes competition, this race, is acting as a powerful catalyst. It's driving massive strategic public and private investment.
So the competition itself forces action.
Precisely. Every one of these states is using this race, this $1 trillion goal, as justification, as leverage, to fund major infrastructure overhauls, significant educational reforms, massive technological integration projects. They are actively fighting to be seen as the most attractive investment destination, not just in India, but arguably in the whole global south.
Okay. And the practical outcome of that fight for, businesses or individuals is
what?
Better incentives, better roads.
All of the above. You're likely to see superior investment incentives, much better physical infrastructure like ports and highways, improved digital infrastructure, and ultimately a huge concentration of high-skilled, high-paying jobs in whichever state manages to execute its particular vision most effectively.
So it's really a strategic battle that's going to determine where India's wealth and, crucially, its future talent pools are going to be primarily located for the next decade at least.
I think that's exactly right. It's redrawing the economic map.
Okay, let's really focus now on Maharashtra's very aggressive push, that 2029 target to hit $1 trillion. We've kind of nicknamed this the California model. Does that fit? This massive bet on high-value digital sectors, finance, and really aggressive high-density urban infrastructure.
I think California model captures the essence pretty well, yeah. It's about speed, tech, finance, and dealing with, or perhaps leveraging, large urban concentrations.
And the leadership language reflects that urgency. Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis literally called the 2029 goal a moonshot moment.
He did, and their core mandate seems quite simple, almost blunt. Maharashtra should be number one in every measurable socioeconomic sector by 2029. It's very clear.
But this speed strategy, this 2029 push, it's framed within a much larger, longer-term vision too, isn't it? It's not just a sprint to one date.
That's a crucial point. It is structured. The short-term goal, the $1 trillion by 2029, that's really just phase one. Phase two then aligns with 2035. That year marks the state's 75th formation anniversary, so it's symbolically important. And then the long-term goal is set way out for 2047, aligning perfectly with India's centenary.
So having that structure is important. Why?
Because it ensures that the immediate, really aggressive investments they're making right now, particularly the ones in digital capabilities we'll discuss, aren't just short-term plays. They're built upon a foundation that's supposedly designed for 20-plus years of sustained growth. Yeah. It connects the sprint to the marathon.
Right, makes sense. Okay, so here's where the really high-stakes bet comes in, it seems. The primary growth engine they're counting on for this 2029 speed target. It's the Global Capability Center sector, GCCs.
This is absolutely the cornerstone of the 2029 plan. It's central. On October 1st, 2025, Maharashtra officially launched its dedicated GCC policy 2025.
Okay, and for you listening, just a quick refresher on GCCs.
Sure, GCCs are basically the captive offshore units of large multinational corporations. Think of them as in-house centers located abroad. But crucially, they aren't just doing basic back-office support anymore. Not like the old BPO model.
No, this is different.
Very different. Today's GCCs handle really high-value functions. We're talking R&D, advanced IT services, artificial intelligence development, complex product development, sophisticated financial analytics. They are, by definition, centers of high-skilled employment.
Okay. And the numbers Maharashtra is targeting here are, well, they seem huge, especially compared to where they are now.
They are ambitious. Currently, Maharashtra already hosts a significant number, about 400 GCCs, employing roughly 4 lakh professionals. That's 400,000 people.
Which is already a strong base.
It is. But the ambition, according to this new policy, is to double that number to 800 GCCs by the end of the financial year 2029-30.
Double it in about 4 to 5 years.
Exactly. And this expansion is projected, they estimate, to attract 50,600 crore in new investments. That's roughly, $6 billion US. And crucially, it's expected to create 4 lakh new high-skilled jobs.
400,000 new jobs, just in this sector.
Yes. Directly correlating that high-value digital growth with their GSDP acceleration plan, it's a very direct link they're trying to forge.
Now, to achieve that kind of rapid scale-up, and let's be honest, to pull potentially high-value jobs away from other established hubs, maybe like Bengaluru, the incentives they're offering must be surgically precise, right? What is the state actually offering these global companies?
They've put together a highly customized package, clearly designed after consulting with the industry. First, they're offering plug-and-play GCC parks. These are ready-made office spaces.
So companies can move in quickly.
Right, minimal setup time. And interestingly, they're designed with the walk-to-work concept in mind, trying to reduce commuting friction, which is a major issue in high-density areas like Mumbai or Pune.
Smart. What about financial incentives?
There are fiscal incentives too, of course. Things like targeted payroll subsidies, maybe rental subsidies for a period. But perhaps even more critical, based on what companies often ask for, are the non-fiscal incentives.
Like what?
Specifically, official permission for 24/7 operations. That's huge for global companies. And significant zoning flexibility, things like FSI relaxations, which is floor space index.
Meaning they can build denser, taller buildings.
Potentially, yes, or repurpose existing spaces more easily. This acknowledges the unique operational needs of global enterprises that simply cannot be bound by, say, traditional 9-to-5 city regulations or rigid zoning laws.
Yeah, that focus on regulatory streamlining, the 2047 ops, that feels like a huge competitive advantage for multinational firms needing round-the-clock work across different time zones. And I understand they're actually physically building a centralized hub just for this purpose.
Exactly. They are actively developing the first dedicated GCC city precinct, located in Navi Mumbai, which is across the harbor from Mumbai proper. And they're partnering with a major industry consulting firm, ANSR, that specializes in GCC setups.
So this isn't just like another office tower.
No, the vision is much bigger. It's designed as an innovation cluster, a whole ecosystem. This centralization aims to create that critical mass effect, attracting top talent, facilitating collaboration, drawing in more capital, because everything is concentrated in one place.
Okay, this speed strategy, this GCC focus, it absolutely requires a matching infrastructure backbone, doesn't it? You simply can't achieve a $1 trillion economy by 2029 if your main financial hub, Mumbai, is constantly bogged down in traffic jams and logistical bottlenecks.
Absolutely not. And that's precisely why infrastructure is the state's second massive bet, running in parallel with the GCC push. They are currently building out 350 kilometers of new metro lines just within the Mumbai metropolitan region.
350 kilometers, that's an enormous expansion.
It's one of the largest urban rail projects globally right now. And importantly, it includes critical east-west connectivity tunnels, which Mumbai has historically lacked. This is seen as essential not just for moving people, but for decarbonizing transport and mobilizing the workforce needed for these high-value jobs.
And beyond Mumbai itself.
Beyond the city, they're focusing heavily on high-speed road corridors, specifically linking Mumbai, Pune, which is another major IT and auto hub, Nagpur in the east, and Nashik to the north. These corridors are designed to facilitate more decentralized growth, spread the economic activity, and improve logistics efficiency across the key economic triangle.
But the really globally significant play here, it seems, is the push to become a true logistics superpower via the sea, the port infrastructure.
Without a doubt, this is potentially game-changing. Maharashtra is developing a new megaport, and the plans state it's designed to be 3 times larger in capacity than the existing JNPA, the Jawaharlal Nehru Port Authority, which is already India's busiest container port.
3 times the size of JNPA. That's colossal.
It's absolutely colossal. This kind of capacity expansion is deemed essential if they're going to handle the massive volumes of international trade expected from the high-growth industrial and manufacturing sectors they also want to boost. Alongside the services, it aims to solidify Maharashtra's position as India's primary gateway for global commerce.
Okay, so you have the GCC strategy, you have the massive infrastructure, metro, highways, megaport.
Yeah.
But both of these require talent, people. How is the state ensuring its human capital pipeline can actually meet this demanding 2029 deadline?
Yeah, the talent piece is critical. They seem to be betting heavily on 2 things here, quantity and quality. On the quantity side, they've focused on increasing the gross enrollment ratio, GER, in higher education. It's been aggressively boosted. The data suggests it went from around 12% back in 2014 to about 35% now, and they're targeting 50% by 2030. So getting more people into higher education overall.
But just having degrees isn't enough, right? It's about jobs.
Exactly, and that's where the quality metric, or perhaps employability, becomes the real focus. They've launched a major skill integration initiative called the CMYKPY program.
CMYKPY.
Stands for Chief Minister Yuva Kaushalya Prayogshala. It's basically a network of youth skilling labs.
Yeah.
And the key thing is that these programs are explicitly being co-designed with industry partners.
Ah, so the companies needing the skills are helping shape the training.
That's the idea. To train young people in the specific in-demand skills needed right now and for the near future, things like AI, robotics, data science, cloud architecture. The goal is to ensure the education system's output directly feeds the needs of the booming GCC sector and other tech industries.
So the stated goal isn't just more graduates, it's to be the national leader in employable youth by that 2029 milestone.
That seems to be the objective, yes. And finally, underpinning this entire ambitious framework is the promise of efficient governance. The state uses what they call a 6 pillars framework for execution.
6 pillars. Okay.
And monitoring progress relies heavily on the Maichirai single window portal. Now, for you listening, Maichirai is essentially their automated, centralized online system designed to improve the ease of doing business.
Cutting red tape for investors.
Exactly. Cutting bureaucratic friction for investors seeking various clearances, permits, and importantly, land allocation, which is handled primarily through the MIDC, the Maharashtra Industrial Development Corporation.
And they track progress publicly.
Yes, they emphasize that progress is publicly tracked, using metrics like real-time job creation numbers and actual investment inflows. It reflects that push towards a data-driven, accountable, speed-oriented strategy.
Okay, that level of centralization, the single window portal, the public tracking it all, sounds absolutely critical if you're serious about hitting such an accelerated timeline like 2029. But let's inject some friction, some potential reality check here. Maharashtra's heavy reliance on high-density urban infrastructure, 350 kilometers of metro in crowded Mumbai, and the sheer complexity of land acquisition for a port 3 times the size of JNPA.
How real is the risk that execution speed itself or just urban congestion and land issues could derail that 2029 target?
I think that's the absolute major risk factor. It's the elephant in the room. Mumbai and its surrounding region is already infamous for its physical constraints, its density, its land costs.
Right.
Now, while the new governance structures like MAITRI are designed to address the bureaucratic friction, the physical constraints remain immense. Getting those 350 kilometers of metro lines fully operational, acquiring the vast tracts of land needed for that megaport, navigating environmental clearances, potential litigation, these are colossal engineering and coordination challenges.
So it only takes one big project to stall.
Exactly. If just one of these interdependent megaprojects falters significantly, the momentum driving towards that 2029 deadline immediately slows down. It could quite easily push them back towards their original, perhaps more realistic, business-as-usual trajectory of 2032. The execution risk is very, very high.
Okay, so we've seen Maharashtra's fast mover, digital-centric, maybe higher risk, higher reward approach. Now, let's pivot to Gujarat. They seem to be pursuing a completely different economic philosophy, aiming for that $1 trillion around 2030-31. We've labeled this the East Asian manufacturing model. Does that capture it? Focus on industrial scale, stability maybe, and this massive bet on a green future.
East Asian manufacturing model is a good shorthand, I think. It evokes that sense of deep industrial capacity, export orientation, long-term planning, and increasingly integrating sustainability or green tech into that industrial base. Gujarat's roadmap, which they call Viksit Bharat at 2047, is definitely built on that idea of depth and long-term scale.
Right, they target $1 trillion by 2030-31, which, as we said, is still very aggressive. But the truly staggering figure in their plan is the long-term projection, isn't it?
It really is. They're aiming for a $3.5 trillion economy by 2047.
$3.5 trillion from one state.
It's an enormous number. To achieve that figure, it demands not just the sprint to $1 trillion, but an absolute marathon of sustained high-level growth for decades afterwards.
You mentioned the required CAC-SHR earlier for the 2030 goal was 14-15%. What does the $3.5 trillion goal imply after that?
It implies needing consistent, probably 12-13% growth year after year for nearly 2 more decades after 2030. That feels incredibly aspirational, especially given potential global economic headwinds, climate change impacts, resource constraints.
Yeah, maintaining that for so long is tough.
It is ambitious, no doubt.
Yeah.
But they argue they're starting from a position of significant industrial strength. Gujarat already contributes, about 18% of India's total industrial output?
18%. That's disproportionately high for its size.
It is. And maybe even more impressively, they account for roughly 1/3 of the nation's total merchandise exports. So they have that strong foundation in making things and selling them globally.
Okay, and their strategy document talks about these dual pillars.
Yes,
Yeah.
The framework is built on these 2 pillars, living well and earning well. Earning well is pretty straightforward. It focuses on fostering prosperity through innovation, industry, jobs, standard economic goals.
And living well.
Living well brings in the equity and sustainability angle. It emphasizes ensuring equitable access to good health, quality education, and critically important for their long-term industrial plan, access to sustainable environmental resources like clean water and energy.
Okay, let's dig into their industrial focus then. While they certainly are investing in, traditional strategic sectors, automotive, aerospace, chemicals, financial services, leveraging Gift City, the central, massive, defining bet seems to be on energy, specifically green energy dominance.
The Green Growth Mission is absolutely the heart of Gujarat's future economic identity as presented in this roadmap. The headline target here is producing 3 million metric tons of green hydrogen annually by 2030.
3 million tons of green hydrogen.
Yeah.
Just to provide some context for listeners, how big is that target?
It's enormous. It's genuinely one of the most aggressive national-level green hydrogen targets being discussed globally, let alone for a subnational state or province. It signals a massive commitment.
And the investment required must be astronomical.
The estimates are around $500 billion in cumulative investment needed just to reach that 2030 green hydrogen target. And the projected payoff, besides the energy itself, is the creation of 5 lakh new green jobs, 500,000 jobs by the end of this decade, directly linked to this green energy transition.
Wow. A $500 billion cumulative investment focused largely on one future energy sector. That's a monumental commitment. It feels like it fundamentally ties Gujarat's future industrial sovereignty, its global supply chain position, directly to renewable energy production and export.
I think that's exactly the strategic calculation. It's an enormous geopolitical and geoeconomic statement they're trying to make. And the physical manifestation of this ambition, the place where you can actually see it taking shape, is the Kavda Renewable Energy Park being built in the Kutch region.
Kavda Park.
Yeah.
Right, this is the one aiming to be the world's largest.
Yes, it's set to become the world's largest single-location hybrid renewable energy facility combining solar and wind. The target capacity is 30 GW.
30 gigawatts. Again, for perspective.
30 GW is roughly equivalent to the entire annual electricity consumption of a mid-sized European country, like maybe Belgium or Switzerland, from one park.
Incredible scale.
And this single project, Kavda, is projected to generate over 100,000 jobs just by itself during construction and operation. So it's clearly envisioned as a massive economic engine as well as an environmental statement.
Okay, so if Maharashtra is focusing intensely on GCC volume for speed, Gujarat seems to be focusing on this deep industrial scale, huge green energy exports, and then leveraging its already strong port network, presumably linking it to things like the proposed IM corridor, the India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor.
That seems to be the logic, yes. Connecting their massive production capacity, especially in green energy and manufacturing, to global markets via enhanced port infrastructure and these new multimodal corridors. And when we look at their strategy for GCCs, it really reflects this difference in priority compared to Maharashtra.
How so?
Gujarat is aiming for a much lower volume, but perhaps more specialized hubs. Their target is 250 new GCCs by 2030, attracting about 10,000 crore in investment, which is roughly $1.2 billion US.
Okay, 250 versus Maharashtra's 800. That's a significant difference.
It is. It signals that while they definitely want those high-skilled service jobs, they are perhaps not prioritizing the sheer volume of the GCC sector over, say, locking down investment in semiconductor manufacturing or becoming a leader in hydrogen production technology. It's a different balance.
And how are they tailoring their incentives to attract the specific types of GCCs they do want?
Well, their incentives package includes quite robust CapEx support, capital expenditure support up to 200 crore, which is significant, and also employment-linked reimbursements. But a key detail, reflecting that living well pillar we talked about, is the specific provision of 100% EPF support for women employees in these new GCCs.
EPF is the Employee Provident Fund, like Social Security.
Exactly. So the government covers the employer's contribution for women employees, making it cheaper to hire women, and promoting female workforce participation, tying into their social goals.
And where are they trying to cluster these GCCs?
They're developing clusters around key cities like Ahmedabad, Vadodara, Surat, but the main focal point seems to be GIFT City in Gandhinagar.
India's international financial hub.
Precisely. GIFT City is positioned as India's International Financial Services Center, IFSC, so they're likely targeting specialized finance, fintech, and related high-end capabilities to build that ecosystem there, rather than just generic IT services.
Okay, let's talk infrastructure then. If Maharashtra focuses on upgrading dense urban areas and high-speed connections between them, Gujarat's infrastructure model seems more defined by large-scale greenfield development, right? Building new things from scratch.
That's a very good way to put it. Their flagship infrastructure bet is definitely the Dhalara SER. That's the Dhalara Special Investment Region. It's being developed as India's first large-scale greenfield smart city. Dhalara is envisioned as a completely new, integrated industrial and residential hub designed from the ground up with sustainability principles, smart city tech, and focused on attracting high-tech manufacturing like semiconductors, EVs, aerospace.
And connectivity is key for a new city like that.
Absolutely. The Dhalara International Airport, which is expected to be operational perhaps late 2025 or 2026, is central to connecting this new city directly to global supply chains and passenger traffic.
So this sounds less like,
Think of GRITE as a dedicated state-level think tank and transformation unit, modeled perhaps loosely on the national NTIOG. It's designed specifically for data-driven planning, long-term strategy formulation, and leveraging AI-enabled e-governance tools to monitor progress and improve efficiency. It acts as a powerful administrative steering committee focused purely on hitting these long-term performance metrics.
And those metrics include social goals, too.
Yes, explicitly. Their ultimate long-term goals for 2047 really show their dedication to linking economic growth with equity. They have stated aims like reducing the state's unemployment rate below 1% and, very ambitiously, raising female labor force participation above 75%. So they're embedding these structural social goals directly into their core economic planning documents.
Okay, but let's bring in that friction point again.
Yeah.
For Gujarat, the obvious structural challenge, which you alluded to with the living well pillar, seems to be water scarcity. It's a known issue.
It is.
If they are betting $500 billion primarily on green hydrogen production, which, depending on the specific electrolysis technology used, can require significant water input. How does the source material, the roadmap, address this potential conflict between massive industrial scale and fundamental resource constraints, especially in arid regions like Kutch, where Kavda is?
That is the genuine Achilles heel, potentially. The sources do acknowledge that water scarcity, particularly in the naturally arid Kutch region where the massive Kavda Energy Park is located, is a major constraint and a long-term risk.
So what's the plan?
They appear to be betting heavily on two main solutions. First, massive investment in advanced desalination projects, specifically to service industrial water needs, separating it from agricultural or potable water demands. Second, implementing policies to ensure that their residential and, crucially, agricultural sectors drastically improve water use efficiency through new irrigation techniques, potentially pricing mechanisms, and conservation mandates.
But is that enough if climate change worsens things?
That's the big question. If climate stress exacerbates drought conditions, makes rainfall even more erratic, then this fundamental resource conflict between industrial ambition and water availability poses a very clear, very significant long-term risk to achieving that $3.5 trillion vision. It's arguably the biggest natural constraint they face. All right, so we've covered the speed model of Maharashtra, the scale model of Gujarat. Now we move south to Tamil Nadu. They're also targeting that $1 trillion mark by 2030. But their strategy, as you mentioned earlier, is rooted in a really unique political and economic history, often referred to as the Dravidian Model.
The Dravidian Model,
Right.
okay. And this philosophy, currently championed by Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, it's defined differently, isn't it? It seems to consciously blend social justice concepts, robust welfare programs, but also economic pragmatism. It's a mix.
It is a distinct mix. While the other two states we discussed really emphasize speed or industrial scale as the primary driver, Tamil Nadu's official roadmap explicitly prioritizes things like resilience, inclusivity, and sustainability alongside economic growth. It's presented as a more balanced approach.
And maybe their biggest competitive edge, unlike the other two perhaps, isn't necessarily brand new mega infrastructure, but decades of investment in human capital.
Absolutely. That's arguably their strongest starting point. Tamil Nadu begins this race from a remarkably high social baseline, which took decades of consistent policy focus on health and education to achieve.
What does that look like in numbers?
Well, for instance, they boast the lowest poverty rate among major states in India, currently estimated at just 1.43%. That's incredibly low.
Wow, 1.43%.
Furthermore, their long-term dedication to education has resulted in the highest gross enrollment ratio, GER, at the elementary school level, basically near universal enrollment at 98.4%. And they consistently rank high, usually third in India in life expectancy, supported by a very strong public health infrastructure, including 36 government medical colleges.
So this deep, stable pool of relatively healthy, well-educated human capital that provides an inherent long-term advantage, right? Kind of a bedrock.
I think so. It acts as a foundation, maybe even a shock absorber during economic downturns. Now, let's look at what they build upon that foundation, and that's primarily manufacturing.
Right, the industrial anchor of the South. So we mentioned the Detroit of India label for its strong automotive sector, but you said it's more diversified now.
Much more diversified. While automotive is still huge, its manufacturing base is remarkably broad. It contributes a very commanding 11.9% of India's entire manufacturing GDP.
Almost 12%.
Yeah. They are national leaders in key traditional and growth sectors, things like textiles and leather goods, but also increasingly in high-end electronics assembly, think smartphones, components, and very critically now, electric vehicles, EVs, and EV components.
A lot of EV investment seems to be heading there.
It is. Plus, they have a huge base of smaller enterprises. Tamil Nadu is home to about 3.55 million registered MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises. That's the second highest number nationally. And that dense network provides a kind of granular economic stability and employment base.
Okay, what seems particularly fascinating about this Dravidian model from the outside looking in is how explicitly they seem to link social welfare policies directly to their economic growth strategy. It's not seen as separate or a drag on growth.
No, it appears highly integrated. The state actively uses targeted welfare spending not just for poverty reduction, but seemingly to ensure that the benefits of economic growth reach a wider community, which in turn boosts local consumption, creates demand, and enhances overall stability.
Can you give some examples of these linked policies?
Sure. There's the high-impact Chief Minister's Breakfast Scheme, which provides free breakfast in government schools. The explicit goals are improving child nutrition and boosting school attendance rates, which directly reinforces their long-term human capital base we just discussed.
Right, linking welfare to education outcomes.
Exactly. And then there's the Kalanyar Mahalir Urimai Thitam. This is a massive scheme providing direct benefit transfers cash payments specifically to women heads of households. The stated aims are enhancing women's financial independence, empowering their decision-making, but also injecting predictable consumption spending directly into the local economy.
Interesting. And I read about a specific policy innovation they have designed to promote female empowerment through actual asset ownership. tangible assets.
Yeah, that's a great example of how they try to embed structural equity into policy. They have a policy that significantly reduces the stamp duty and registration fees for properties, land, or homes valued up to 10 lakh, which is about 12,000 US, if the title deed is registered exclusively under a woman's name.
So it makes it cheaper for women to own property.
Directly incentivizes female homeownership, so it's integrating social welfare goals with wealth creation and asset security for women. And the total welfare package across these various schemes represents a significant investment. The figure cited is around 3,600 crore annually, roughly $500 million US.
Okay, this sounds progressive, certainly focused on equity, but the question always comes up. Is it fiscally sustainable? Can a state really maintain such high levels of welfare spending while simultaneously trying to hit an ambitious $1 trillion GSDP target by 2030?
That's the critical question, and the state argues yes. Their fiscal strength, they claim, relies on high tax buoyancy, meaning tax revenues grow faster than the economy, and improved collection efficiency. This, they argue, has allowed them to maintain a high level of targeted subsidy spending without necessarily running into unsustainable deficits.
Is there any financial indicator that backs that up?
Well, one indicator often highlighted is their high credit deposit ratio, which currently stands at 117.7%.
Higher than 100%, what does that mean?
It means that banks in Tamil Nadu are lending out more money, over 117.7, for every 100 they take in as deposits within the state. A ratio significantly above 100% generally reflects a vibrant, high-velocity financial environment where credit demand is strong and money is being actively deployed within the state economy. So it suggests a degree of fiscal discipline combined with high domestic economic activity and consumption.
Okay. However, the source materials, the analyses, they do point to some...
It's a massive difference. This substantial deficit highlights really urgent need for Tamil Nadu to put a stronger policy push into attracting digital innovation, fostering a better startup ecosystem, attracting more fintech, and crucially, landing large-scale GCC investments if they genuinely want to hit that $1 trillion target by 2030. Relying just on manufacturing might be too slow. They are definitely playing a serious game of catch-up in the high-end services race.
And there's another seeming paradox. Despite their stellar performance in basic education enrollment, they seem to face a challenge with employment, particularly for graduates.
Yes, it's often termed the challenge of educated unemployment. While the state excels at producing a large number of graduates and postgraduates, absorbing them into suitably high-skilled jobs remains a challenge. Postgraduate unemployment is reported to be surprisingly high, sitting around 11.6%.
Higher than you'd expect.
And female unemployment is particularly concerning, approaching nearly 20% in some surveys, despite high female literacy and enrollment rates.
So what's the plan to address that?
The state government is aware of this and is launching various targeted reskilling and upskilling initiatives, many focused on Industry 4.0 skills, digital literacy, and trying to better match curriculum with industry needs. But the core challenge for Tamil Nadu really remains. How do they successfully scale up their service sector, particularly the high-value end, to absorb its highly educated workforce while simultaneously maintaining its commitment to diversified, inclusive manufacturing and its social equity goals? It's a balancing act.
Okay, so we've looked at each state individually. We now have these three, fundamentally distinct economic philosophies emerging, yet each one is aiming for that same $1 trillion GSDP benchmark around the same time frame, more or less. Comparing them side by side really illuminates the potential future of India's overall economic architecture, doesn't it?
It really does. Let's try to synthesize the core difference in their fundamental growth strategy. As we've discussed, it feels like a clear choice, or maybe a reflection of inherent strengths between speed, scale, and equity. I think that sums it up well. Maharashtra, with what we call the California model, is fundamentally betting on high-value services, finance, and achieving speed through agglomeration.
Agglomeration. Meaning concentrating things.
Yes, concentrating wealth, talent, and high-skill functions in already dense, large urban centers like Mumbai and Pune, and supporting that concentration with massive, aggressive urban infrastructure investments and timelines like that 2029 target. Their primary engine seems to be the sheer volume of TCCs they hope to attract, plus the enabling high-speed urban transit and port capacity, speed and concentration.
Okay. Conversely, Gujarat, with the East Asian manufacturing model, is betting on industrial depth, global supply chain integration, and achieving massive scale.
Exactly. Gujarat appears to be relying on achieving enormous industrial scale, leveraging its existing port-led economy, and developing these huge specialized industrial regions, or layers, like Dolura. Their clear focus is on that long-term, high-capital commitment to becoming a global leader in green hydrogen and maybe semiconductors. Their whole strategy feels dictated by that longer-term ambition for $3.5 trillion by 2047, which absolutely requires sustained, structured industrial growth over decades. Scale and depth.
Right. And finally, Tamil Nadu, with its Nordic-style welfare plus industry hybrid approach.
Tamil Nadu seems to prioritize resilience and inclusivity above all else. Their strategy appears built on maintaining a stable, diversified manufacturing base, strong in electronics, EVs, auto components, textiles, while simultaneously leveraging their decades of prior investment in human development. They seem committed to ensuring growth is balanced by robust social equity policies, using welfare schemes not just as safety nets, but as tools to maintain a stable, educated, and relatively high-consuming domestic population base. Equity and balance.
And we can see that strategic difference reflected really clearly in their contrasting approaches to that high-value GCC sector we talked about.
Absolutely. Maharashtra is the undisputed volumetric leader in ambition, aiming for that huge number, 800 GCCs. This demonstrates their willingness to perhaps take regulatory risks, offer very aggressive incentives, and cater to the needs of high-density service industries.
While Gujarat,
aiming for just 250 GCCs, seems to be targeting a more specialized niche. They're likely focused on attracting finance, fintech, and maybe engineering R&D GCCs, particularly clustering them around the Gift City financial hub. It's about specific capabilities, not just volume.
and Tamil Nadu.
Tamil Nadu, while definitely strong in electronics manufacturing, is currently lagging quite significantly in the pure software services and GCC category. This really underscores their most pressing strategic need right now. They need serious investment catch-up in this high-value services space to complement their manufacturing strengths.
The infrastructure priorities are also really telling, aren't they? They show exactly where each state expects its future growth to actually come from.
They really do. Maharashtra is prioritizing logistics scale and hyper-efficient urban mobility, hence the new megaport and the 350 kilometers of new metro lines in Mumbai. It's all about moving goods and skilled workers quickly in a dense environment. Gujarat focuses on creating entirely new, large-scale industrial platforms, specifically the massive greenfield Dallara Smart City and those enormous green energy corridors linked to the Kavda Park. It's about building the future industrial base from scratch, often outside existing urban centers.
And Tamil Nadu's infrastructure focus seems different again.
Yes, reflecting its equity focus, perhaps, Tamil Nadu seems to be balancing investment in upgrading industrial infrastructure road upgrades, metro expansion in Chennai with significant investment in social infrastructure. Things like improving schools, hospitals, and even specific policies encouraging affordable housing, especially linked to female ownership. It's a broader definition of infrastructure.
Okay, let's bring back that critical lens one last time and try to summarize the primary challenges or risks that each state really must overcome to make their respective visions a reality.
All right. For Maharashtra, as we discussed, the main hurdles seem to be execution speed and managing physical constraints. Can that MATRI portal and the state's administrative capacity truly overcome the immense urban congestion challenges of Mumbai? Can they navigate the complexities of land acquisition needed for a port 3 times the size of JMPA and do it by 2029? That's a real test of bureaucratic agility versus physical reality.
Okay. For Gujarat, the core challenge appears to be resource management, primarily water, and ensuring inclusive growth.
Absolutely. The fundamental challenge for Gujarat, underpinning its entire industrial and energy strategy, is ensuring sustainable water management, especially given their enormous bet on green hydrogen and large-scale industry in often water-stressed regions. They also face the long-term societal challenge of ensuring the benefits of this growth reach across the state and address potential issues of social inclusion and regional imbalance outside their main industrial corridors.
And finally, for Tamil Nadu, the key risks seem to be tackling that structural graduate unemployment paradox and managing environmental or climate stability.
Exactly. Tamil Nadu urgently needs to find ways to successfully transition its highly educated workforce into high-value service sector jobs, closing that gap between educational attainment and suitable employment. Simultaneously, the state's extensive coastal geography makes it highly vulnerable to climate change impacts, rising sea levels, increased cyclone intensity, groundwater depletion, which could significantly threaten its crucial agricultural base and its coastal manufacturing stability. #outroke.
So wrapping this up, what's really fascinating here, as you said earlier, is that this race to $1 trillion, it feels less like a simple competition and more like a strategic statement from each state. It's a clear reflection of three quite distinct regional philosophies playing out in real time.
Yeah, one based on, speed and high finance concentration, like Maharashtra. One based on achieving deep industrial scale and betting big on green energy, like Gujarat. And one focused on trying to carefully balance economic growth with social equity and human development, like Tamil Nadu.
So for you, the listener, you really have a front row seat to an unprecedented large-scale economic experiment unfolding right now. Based purely on the metrics and the timelines we've analyzed today, Maharashtra's aggressive GCC policy focus and that very ambitious 2029 deadline probably position it as the fastest mover. They seem the most likely winner of the immediate sprint towards hitting the $1 trillion mark first.
I'd agree with that assessment for the short-term race. However, the long-term sustainability, the marathon rather than the sprint, that's where the real intrigue lies, I think.
How so?
Well, Gujarat's truly monumental $3.5 trillion vision for 2047, if they can manage the resource constraints and execution, backed by its decisive pivot to green energy dominance and that structured industrial scale, that could potentially create a very powerful, globally relevant economic model over the next 2 decades.
Or Tamil Nadu.
Or Tamil Nadu's model,
Yeah.
which consciously tries to build growth upon a foundation of high social capital and welfare resilience. If they can solve the services gap and manage climate risks, that might prove to be a more resilient, equitable, and perhaps socially stable economic paradigm in the long run. It's a different definition of success.
Okay, so let's leave our listeners with a final provocative thought. We've established, and the states themselves emphasize this, that policy continuity and political stability are cited as absolute prerequisites for success across all three of these incredibly ambitious long-term roadmaps.
Yes, these plans demand sustained investment, consistent policy direction, and focused bureaucratic execution, not just for a year or two, but potentially until 2030, 2035, even 2047.
Right. So the final question for you to ponder is this. Given that long dependency on stability, just how much risk does external global economic uncertainty, things like recessions, trade wars, supply chain shocks, or indeed any significant shift in India's own domestic political momentum or policy priorities, pose to the actual achievement of these historic trillion-dollar timelines?
Because the success of these states doesn't just rest on the brilliance of their internal policy documents, does it? It rests heavily on their ability to maintain trajectory, maintain focus, and secure consistent funding in a perpetually changing, often unpredictable global and national environment.
Exactly. That interplay between state ambition and external stability is something critical for you to keep an eye on as this race unfolds.
Definitely one to watch.